Voila, it's 9 a.m. Dubai time, and this is Ali Azzuddin from Fourth Generation for Education. I'm so happy to see some educators joining us, and I know that some are in Lebanon, some are in different countries, so feel free to let us know where you are watching from. And I can see Mona, so she would like to watch all our session, but hopefully without problems of internet and electricity in Lebanon. Lebanon is my home country, so I'm so happy to see all these educators still committed to the learning and with all the difficulties that they are facing. People are watching from Dubai, from Bangkok, from Jordan. It's very early for some and it's very late for others. So Cathryn and Shei, good morning. And I'm so excited to have you in our special day about SDG today under the big title, We Are the Change. And we're going to explore together how we can bring the SDG to life in this morning session. I want to remind everyone that in the chat, please click everyone. So when we interact with you, we can see all the responses. And then if you have any questions, send it in the Q&A. We will have a moment for the question at the end. And I can see people watching also from Uzbekistan, from China. I will be soon in Uzbekistan. So we were just talking about the country and the beauty of your country before we started. So good morning, Cathryn, or good night, good afternoon. I'm not sure what to say. And hello, Shei.
Good evening from where I am in
Good
Los
evening.
Angeles.
Good morning over here. Yes, good morning. It's midnight. So switching from Friday to Saturday. I'm so excited to be here. Hi, everyone.
We were ready. We can give it a start. People on Facebook are watching. People here on Zoom are watching. And I'm happy to facilitate this session.
Great. Well, we're so thrilled that you invited us, Ali, to join this illustrious group of educators. I'm based in Los Angeles and Shei's in Canada. And we work together with CBK Associates. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to dive into the topic, and we're just thrilled that you're all here. All right. Let's see.
So while we are sharing the screen, I'm going to say good morning for all the people watching on Facebook. And I can see some people are watching from Saudi Arabia, and they are also introducing who they are on the Facebook chat.
Fabulous. Well, we're thrilled that you're all here. And we're just grateful that we get to start off this amazing day of 6 different workshops with some wonderful speakers. So we know that you'll want to be attending all the sessions to really get the best that you can out of the day. So we're here to talk about bringing the SDGs to life as a catalyst for inquiry and learning and for really engaging young people. So I'm Cathryn Berger Kaye. I live in Los Angeles. So in pre-pandemic and COVID times, I would be on the road about 200 days a year going to your schools and others around the world to bring service learning and social emotional learning to life. Many of you know I wrote the book, The Complete Guide to Service Learning, and I was a key author of the CAS Guide for those of you who would do the diploma program. So our team, as you see a photograph of some of our 8 members of our team, Shei's another one. We do service learning, social emotional dynamics, and justice, equity, diversity, inclusion work. And even in virtual spaces, we're known to make things exciting, dynamic, and engaging. So I'll toss it to Shei to introduce herself.
Thank you, Kathy. Hello, everyone. And again, Ali, thanks so much for the opportunity. I'm thrilled to be here this morning. I'm Shei Ascencio. I'm so fortunate to work as part of CBK Associates team. I'm an educator and have been working overseas for over 20 years and recently relocated to Winnipeg in Canada. I love doing work with youth, and you can see that photo over there where we are at a refugee camp in Congo, the border with Congo. And the projects our students have led and initiated have been recognized by the Association of International Schools in Africa. So yeah, it's very successful career so far, and just really loving being engaged in service learning.
So today we're here to unpack the importance of the Sustainable Development Goals, along with the 5 stages of service learning. And this is to seed possibilities for youth engagement.
Exactly. It is very important for students to engage in unpacking the SDGs along with the 5 stages of service learning, as these will create meaningful opportunities to identify real issues and needs that students can lead and engage with.
And we know that along the way, we build student curiosity, efficacy, and agency. We amplify youth voice and choice, and we create connections in the classroom, in the community, and across the globe, just as Ali has created connections across the globe with this workshop. Now, we have something that we do every time we start a workshop, virtually or in person, and we're starting the day. So we'd like to just have you join us, and what we do a little bit of grounding. Now, what we mean by this, just taking a moment and just kind of coming to the space. You may have had a hectic morning. You may have already been doing a lot of things. I know Ali got up really early today, so he may need just a little bit of check-in. So we're going to invite you to just sit up straight wherever you're sitting, kind of align yourself, just feel relaxed. We know you have a full, rich day here. We want you to get the most out of it. So we're going to do just 2, what we call box breaths together. We're going to inhale and hold the breath and let it go. And use this as a chance just to check in with yourself and be present. All right, so I'm going to count down, and then we'll do 3, 3, and 3 to breathe. So 3, 2, 1, inhale for 3, 2, 1, inhale, and hold it, and then just let it go. Felt so good. We're going to do it one more time, right? 3, 2, 1, inhale. Hold it. Inhale again. Inhale one more time and hold it and just let it all out. You know, we have found in whatever workshops we're doing, especially virtually these last 18 months, that this really helps get us started. And I was a little skeptical at first how young people would react, but they've always appreciated it, and they've always welcomed this experience. But I want to pause a minute and ask you a question. You could put your answer in the chat, either on Facebook Live or on the Zoom, is how many breaths do you think we take every day? So what is your guess on how many breaths we take every single day?
Oh, what an interesting question to start the day with.
So put some answers in there, and Ali's going to let us know what he's
saying.
saying.
So we had 80,000, 32,000. So these are answers from Ahmed and Michael. 50,000. 120,000.
Well, Priyanka, I believe, got it really close. It's about 22,000 breaths every day. So that's pretty amazing. We take, now, if you're an infant, it's 56,000. Little ones breathe just constantly, but we take about 22,000, 23,000 breaths a day. And this is real important because we know that breathing can really calm us down, and it's really how we tune into ourselves. And Shei, we've talked about this great quote. Could you share a quote with, I'm a quoteaholic, I love quotes. Yay. So what quote did we bring today, Shei?
We love this quote. Life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away. By Maya Angelou, as you almost know. I love this quote. Kathy, both you and I love it too. And it's just lovely. Go ahead, Kathy. Yeah.
Well, it's just amazing because what we're doing as educators is aiming to have great moments that really take our students' breath away.
That's right. And it's so important just to carry this into our classrooms, right? Those spaces that we share with learners to model and teach our students about the importance of those memorable moments, to pause and breathe.
So how do we get these moments? Now, I'd like to just share with you a key concept that underlies our work. And this is that we often use the term lessons and activities when we think of what we create with students. And language really matters. Language defines culture. Now, I'm not a fan of these words anymore. I used to be, but I realized that we don't learn through lessons, and we don't learn through activities. We really learn through what? Experiences. When we have an experience, that's how we learn. I've had educators tell me that they take this concept into their classroom and look at all they're doing from the framework of, instead of lessons and activities, creating learning experiences, and that's a big shift. So let's think for a moment of what a learning experience might be, because I think in part it needs to be challenging, appropriately challenging for students, so you have something to aim for.
That's right. And significant experiences that are worthy of engaging with and that are of great importance to our students.
Also, students want things that are real. Relevant isn't even good enough anymore because relevant is relevant, but real, they could be in real time with technology and with all kinds of issues. So we want things that are real.
We want them to be engaging as well, to immerse and involve the students in deeper and meaningful learning.
And it has to have a sense of purpose. When I was a student in school, I remember looking out the window often and saying, why am I learning this? Did you ever do that? Did you ever wonder?
All the time.
All the time. Now I'm going to challenge our educators who are on. How many of you look out the window now and wonder, why am I teaching this? So we have to have purpose, not just for the students, but for ourselves, because a purpose, all these things add up to a sense of adventure, which is one of my favorite words. And it's a wonderful novel by Milan Kundera, who defines in his book Identity, he says, adventure is a way to embrace the world. And I guarantee you that all the mission statements of your schools have something to do with embracing the world, becoming active as citizens, as people who do good. So this is a concept we really want to wrap our heads around and know that we can embrace the world. Now, today in our session, we're going to talk about 3 critical questions. First is, can we integrate the Sustainable Development Goals into everyday teaching and learning?
Can youth develop fluidity in how they think about the SDGs?
And can they develop fluidity in how they think about them and move from ideas to action? So these are the principles we're going to do in a very quick seminar. So fasten your seatbelts, because when we take off, we're just going to keep going here. So here they are. Okay, Ali, you know these are the
SDG goals, and I think they will see this slide 6 times today. But we have 2 sessions in Arabic, so we will have a twist of languages.
Wonderful.
That's
so
fantastic.
The SDGs are a very resonant concept that's being used by governments, businesses, by corporations, by individuals, by nonprofits, and by and this is real important because it unites us all in doing something that really elevates these issues into something that we all want to tackle. And that's really critical. And it also is involved in what, Shei? Add something else to this.
Education.
Mix.
I'm going to say education, right? The SDGs connect us all as global citizens, and they're highly important at schools. They build upon overarching issues such as population or increasingly limited resources, environmental disasters, and many others. And have you noticed how the SDGs are interconnected? It may even be impossible to think of one SDG as a unique concept.
All right, so what I'd like you to do is everybody in the chat, open up your chat and take a moment to write down which one of these like jumps out at you, which is an issue that you really care about right this second. You may have more, but we're going to do a forced quick choice. Write it in the chat, but don't send it yet. Put in the chat. We're going to do a countdown at 3. When I count down, we'll say send, and then everyone sends at the same time. We call it a waterfall. So put it in the chat which one you care about, and I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, how do you want me now to read all this chat?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. But I'm seeing it too. It's renewable energy, good health, so many topics.
Yes.
There's impossible to even pick one. There's so many. And as Shei said, they're interconnected. So that's really something we really want to talk about. If you put down, Shei, talk about this interconnection a little bit more.
Yes, I want to talk about the interconnection. Well, I would like now that everyone has a topic, now think of at least 2 more that they might be connected with others. Okay, so think of at least 2 more.
So if you pick good health, which other 2 ones would have to be connected to it? It's not even a maybe, there's at least 2 for each one. Ali, which one did you pick?
I would say good health is connected to no hunger. And it's connected to, let's say, the life below water.
You know, and you could even say it's connected to sustainable cities and communities because you need that in order to create the systems that provide good health and good nutrition to every member of the community.
Right, right.
So this is really important that they're always interconnected. And this is
I can see in the chat people making all these connections. So yeah, and then some people are just writing numbers, and some people are writing the full title of the goal.
Someone wrote 1 in 16, which is no poverty and peace and justice. And good health, someone wrote, is clean waters, responsible consumption. It's just impossible to think of them as a standalone. And I really want to emphasize this, that this is something real important to share with your students, because sometimes they'll think they're just doing one, but we never can just do one. They're always interconnected. The other issue is that we want to make sure we don't just ride the surface. This is a fantastic chart. And you're going to hear us say again, we hope this is up in every classroom that you can make reference to. But it's not enough just to say quality education or life below water. We need to unpack what that is. So we picked one just as an example. Shei.
Sorry, Kathy. I lost you there for a minute.
Okay, so you wanted to walk us through what we mean by the gender,
Yes.
how you can take it and unpack it further than just a key phrase.
Thank you. Yes. So if you head to the SDGs website, you'll see that they have excellent resources there. And it takes each topic further with great specific resources in many languages, which is fantastic. Because we know we have Arabic coming up, right? Ali,
Right.
and French. So yeah, you'll see that they are available in many different languages. So as you can see, they update the content to be meaningful. And in this slide, they show gender equality issues before COVID.
And then they show it after.
And then, exactly. And then here with COVID related information, which is fantastic because this is now, this is real.
So there's a wealth of content that we want to do to unpack each of these topics. So we're not just riding the surface and being superficial. So this is really important. So can we integrate the Sustainable Development Goals into everyday teaching and learning? We have a quick answer and a slower answer. Here's the quick answer. Yes. No surprise there. But what does that mean and what does it look like? So we're going to take a few topics and really look at them. So Shei, if you were studying migration in your class, and what you could do at different grades, what would that look like if we're kind of connecting it to the goals?
I'm thinking if we were studying migration, students perhaps would be inquiring into why it happens or what is it connected to. So I might ask for a little bit of help here. So what events cause migration? Can you help us and put this in the chat? What events cause migration?
So in the chat on Facebook or in
Oh, there we go.
Yes, people are very active this morning. So war is coming a lot. We are having like political problems. We are having job opportunities. We have the push and pull factors, the climate change, and then family crisis, economical crisis, poverty, safety are some of the ideas.
And water, of course, is another motivating factor. So there's all these, so all these are interconnected. Let's do another one. Let's look at energy. Now, if you're teaching energy, which is a critical topic, we of course talk about power sources and renewables and vampire energy. That's when you leave something plugged in when you shouldn't, and it just keeps sucking out the energy like a vampire. Kids love talking about that. So again, you could see that we would touch about so many different elements, including responsible consumption comes to my mind, sustainable cities, and even life on land, climate action. There's all these interrelated. And we also know that it even relates to good health, because if you're living near power sources that are not things that take care of our bodies, that could be damaging, that this could be an issue. So let's do one more and let's see what you say in the chat. Climate, is that an issue? Yeah. So here's what I'm curious about. Shei, can you, maybe it's easier to look at this way. Can you find one of the Sustainable Development Goals that is not related to climate?
Ooh, I like that, Kathy. That is not related to climate. I can even see Ali like looking really closely, like.
and then in that chat, people are telling her no.
No
way. I love this one. No way. No.
Yes.
Right. It's all of it. It's impossible. So if you're studying climate, of course, you can narrow down what you're studying and say, we're going to focus on this part or that part. But we do know that it's all of them. So I'm really appreciative to see all of you engage so much, because this is really a key part of what we're talking about, is how this works. So we just want to be very clear that what I love about the SDGs is it helps us create a roadmap that really adds depth of inquiry and conversation. Students want to talk about, well, when you say it connects, that climate connects to sustainable cities, what do you mean and what does that look like? We really want to unpack these topics and really do an inquiry-based approach to what we're talking about here. So let's go to the next question.
Can youth develop fluidity in how they think about the SDGs?
So I have to just tell a little story. It was quite a few years ago when we were traveling, and I had just landed in Bangkok and was on a visit to NIST, a school that's here, an international school. And I'd been there several times, but on this particular day when I arrived on campus, a little boy came running up to me. He appeared to be about 8, and he said, "We're working on number 6," and he ran away. He was so confident I would know what number 6 was. I didn't. He knew more about the SDGs than I did. But the school had gotten so excited about the SDGs that students had this shorthand and they expected everybody else just to know. So I think students can really understand this. So let's think about this. So what we see, if we have the SDGs up in every classroom, just a poster, that becomes a point of reference all the time. So I'm going to really recommend that. I said it earlier, I'm saying it again. It's really important. And I just want to mention that I was leading a workshop in Beijing, a weekend workshop, and there were about 60 educators from the region. And there was a fellow there named Anthony, and I just want to show you the back of his sweatshirt.
Oh, nice.
So Dulwich College not only had it on when you entered the building, it was a huge, huge mural on the wall because I visited the school several times to consult, but he had it on his sweatshirt. He gave me a sweatshirt. I was really excited.
That's fantastic.
You know, every single item can reflect the philosophy of the school and the mission of the school. The mug, the sweatshirt, maybe the pens or the mural. I have seen them on mural while visiting a school, but then now seeing it on a sweatshirt is really a creative idea.
Yeah, because then if you're wearing it in the community, people say, "What is that?" You could open up a new conversation. Shei, what about? Could you talk? Yes. What about what we talk about, Shei?
Talk about, yes, and this can be in the form of references that we make, or connections that are made in the classroom, right? Quotes, as we did towards the beginning of our session. So all these, like, students are continually exposed to it. So what we talk about is very important. And then when we investigate, right, the resources that we use, are we interviewing experts or people from our community? So the investigation it's crucial here.
And what's exciting, especially about a conference like this that brings us all together, is we're together now, but we may not be together on Tuesday when we're back in school, and we should be. You know, one of the beauties about this thing called the internet is that if you're in a school and someone was in Chiang Mai and somebody else is in Dubai, they can connect. The students can both be working on a similar topic, and I can then get a lens on what are the issues in your community and what are the issues in my community, how do they intersect. So more and more, I'd just like to encourage you to use whatever platform you can to connect with each other and let students learn about real issues in real places and what's going on with the SDGs in their community. I think that's really the part of the power of what we can do in international schools. So I'm going to dare I say easily. And some of it is because teachers have taught at multiple schools. So Shei, we were talking before, you've taught in Uzbekistan and you've taught in Luanda. So when teachers move, they can take these connections with them. And sometimes students move and can take. I think the more we stay connected, to me, these 18 months have taught me more than anything the importance of being connected.
And I think these 18 months also showed us that it's easy to connect, because with all these platforms, Zoom, the social media, it's now part of our daily life, and it's a must, and it's meaningful.
Right.
So
yes, and so we really need to lean into that. And our kids get so excited. I mean, I've got so many stories of students working in Vietnam, and then they connected through studying language with students in Prague and worked on hunger together. And the excitement of knowing that they're connecting with students around the world just is very elevating and makes them excited to come to school, excited to connect. So let's just remember the word connection. Let's take that as a gem that we take today as you're connecting all around the globe. So this is the third question. Can youth develop fluidity in how they think about the SDGs and how they move from ideas to action? We, of course, say yes. And our vehicle to do this is the process teaching pedagogy. That is something many of you have heard of, and part of why you came to this conference is because of service learning. So I just want to take a moment and share a couple of ideas about it. You'll notice that I put a heart to dot the I in service. And I've done that since the beginning of using PowerPoints and old-fashioned icons, because when we do service, we tap into what we care about. And even if students aren't caring in the beginning, they grow to care. And we know that in social emotional development, learning how to care about something outside of yourself is a really important part of development at all ages. And then we have learning, and that's supposed to be a crown, that shape, because a crown is open-minded. And when we put on a crown, we elevate, we lift us up. And so this is really important, this heart and mind connection. And it's what makes learning exciting in a classroom. We know that all the way through adolescence, which goes up to age 25, young people take in information first from their heart, their emotional context into their mind. So if they don't care about something, you have to work much harder for them to be engaged and teach them. But when they care just a little bit, they're much more eager to be involved. And Aristotle said it best a few years ago when Aristotle said, educating the heart without educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. All right, so this is really important. So we're going to give you a quick tour of the 5 stages of service learning so you get a feel of what they are. It's a process that you can readily use in your classroom. And I dare say many of you are already doing many of these elements. So when you tweak them to be more accurate in this process, you're going to be able to integrate the SDGs in a myriad of ways. So we'll just walk through it pretty quickly. So an investigation is where you start, and that's when you identify an authentic need. So right away you see that's going to connect to the sustainable development goals.
That's right. And then you move on to preparation. Well, your students will dive into deeper inquiry, gain knowledge, develop skills that they will be using throughout their project or their investigation, create a plan to with ways to take action, which then lead us to action. And as we know, there's 4 types of action, types of service action: direct, indirect, advocacy, and research.
And all along the way, you're doing reflecting. That's not something that happens once. It happens formally, informally. And Ali, I hope you invite us back just to do a session just on reflection, because we would love just to do that. I can do 4 hours on reflection. So it's such a rich topic. So I love talking about reflection. So it's ongoing, as you see with the little arrows, and then it's also summative. And then, of course, there's demonstration, which takes the entire story of what you did from investigation, preparation, action, and the reflection, and you share it with others. And that's the metacognitive part, where you don't just talk about what you learned, you talk how you learned it, and then what you contributed and who you're going to tell. And all of this, we're going to really focus on investigation to get us started today. And as Shei said, this whole process is really about strengthening your academic development with young people. It's knowledge, skills, and disposition. So Shei, why don't you get us started with investigation?
Yes, so investigation begins with a personal inventory. And this is so powerful, Kathy and Ali. I've seen it over and over again. This is about knowing who is in the room. You know, students get to know each other, their interests, skills, talents, and areas for growth. And this helps them to become a really strong team. The personal inventory identifies every person as being of value in both the learning and taking action. And it just enables this purposeful collaboration and finding individual and collective connections to the SDGs. So starting with the personal inventory is key.
And so, Shei, sorry, let me say that it's the beginning of the academic year here in the region. So let us say to all the teachers, take the time this week, starting from tomorrow, if your week is starting on Sunday or you're back on Sunday, to know your student. This is essential.
So this is what it can look like. This is in grade 6. And if you go to my website after the workshop, you can download all kinds of information about personal inventory so you know how to do it. So you see some 6th graders interviewing each other and taking notes about each other, all the skills that they're learning. They're doing it on their feet in New York City in grade 10, and you can do it virtually if that's your circumstance at the moment. So everybody take a moment in the chat and say, if I ask you, what are you interested in? Or what's a skill you have? Could you drop that in the chat so we just see what we hear? We'll do just a slight personal inventory right now. And while you're doing that in there, I'm going to let you know that not only do you do it with your students, remember, they're learning asking questions, active listening, and note-taking. Then you have them do it with the parents. And then they bring back all kinds of information your parents have. Now you have a database of ways you can draw parents into your classroom. So I think somebody put something in the chat.
Yeah, I shared the website, so if they want to download all the resources. And then Michael started the discussion by saying the skills that he has are communication and presentation skills.
That's fantastic. So if we know that about Michael and he's one of my students, then I'm going to really let him take over on certain elements so he can not only practice that, he can get better at it. And if there's another student, let's say Shei, feels less confident, she can partner with Michael. Caring communicator. We all need to have people who are like that. So we get this wealth of knowledge. And I just want to tell you an aside, if you're doing any small group work and you have outliers when you do that, we want to bring them in. And how we bring them in is before you start with a task of, let's say, a group project, you pause, make sure you check in what are the interest, skills, and talents of the group so everybody is connected and everybody is part of it. Connecting with experts. Wow, should be part of every. Well, we really want you on our team. Now, I want to show you how this also led to service learning at a school in Shanghai. So John Hakon Gould was one of the teachers who was at that workshop where Anthony was wearing the sweatshirt, the one in Beijing. So John and I have stayed in touch, and I visited his school in Shanghai. And he always has his students do personal inventory, but they decided to take it further. And what they did was they did personal inventory with members of the school, the non-certificated personnel, for example, Apple, who worked in the cafeteria, and then made a resource so other people can learn about her. They call it community voices. And when you think about it, it ties to reduced inequalities in the SDGs, because we're learning about each other and we're not thinking of us as better than or different than. We're coming to know our larger community. And this is always a good thing. So this is just an example how personal inventory can lead to taking action. Now, when we want to authenticate a need, which is at the core of investigation, there's several ways that we can do this, but we'd like to share with you some critical questions to think about first. The first question is, what approach do you take to learn about others? Now, one way is a deficit model, where you go into that neighborhood or that community you want to work at, and you say, what's wrong here? This is very alienating to people and also creates a bigger divide. That's not a healthy way to approach it. And I think in the early days, I was doing that as well. It's just what we did early on. But luckily, we've learned better. And a friend of mine, Andy Dorn, really shared some ideas with me. Just a shout out to Andy. And he introduced me the concept of an asset-based approach. Now, what's interesting here is this word asset is one I've never seen students know. I've never come across any students at any international schools who are familiar with the word asset. So let's take a moment and put in the chat, if you were going even into a very poor community, what might you find as an asset even in a very poor community? So take a moment and put that in the chat. What could be an asset even in a very poor community? Anyone have any ideas what could be an asset? This is a very important concept to help students understand, because what we're trying to do is unify and not separate from each other. So skills and talents, people volunteering their time, a water fountain, that's right, a resource of a natural resource. It can also
homes, the family connection, family support, the language, the resilience, the culture,
the history, the traditions. It can be people willing to, a sense of community, which is lacking in many communities that may be more affluent and very rich, and some communities that we may even observe as struggling, but they have the resilience, they have a togetherness, and their entrepreneurial spirits. So we can identify assets everywhere we go. And when we start with assets first, we're really creating partnerships, and we're alleviating the us and them, and we're really finding the benefits of each, and we're coming together as partners. We're not doing service to others or for others, we're doing with. And this is really critical. So would you bring this idea to life for Shei? Shei, when she was in Luanda, did a most remarkable service learning experience during COVID that really shows when you do an asset-based model. So Shei, take it away.
Yes, I love to share with you about this Masking Angola project led by senior students from Luanda International School, and they used the asset model beautifully. They began by building relationships with the community that is in Luanda called Kamama. And actually, they were approached by a nurse who volunteers at a local hospital. And she explained how they were in huge needs of masks for people at the hospital, but also for people at the Kamama community. And the Masking Angola team met with 2 more people from the community to find out more about their assets, which is fantastic. This is perfect what they did. They learned that women love sewing, but unfortunately they lack the supplies. So they use this valuable information and raise funds by selling t-shirts designed by an independent designer. And then with those funds, the team brought fabric and all the necessary materials for the women from the Kamama community to make masks themselves. So after learning, about their assets, they were able to partner and have a true collaboration.
I just think this is so important. So just think of this when you're doing any kind of service. And what else did the students do with their, now this is back to their interest, skills, and talents as well.
Yes, and full circle here, because going back to the interests and skills and talents, other students from the team, they were used to create these posters. They had these skills with graphic design, and they created these beautiful posters in the local language and English that were used at local hospitals. And something very neat here is that they collaborated with a professional graphic designer, and she coached them through the process, helping them to improve their skills, which is a wonderful collaboration.
So what we see here is that when we draw upon the interest, skills, and talents as a foundation, and we take an assets-based approach, we can identify a need. Now, there's another aspect of identifying need that is really important, and you're going to want to take this home with you. This is a key skill. It's called the Miso Method of Action Research, and it's written about a lot in my book. You can find it in the Complete Guide to Service Learning, and also some free downloadable resources on my website. We're just packing in all these free things for you. So what do I mean by the Miso Method of Action Research? Now, most of the time when students go to do research, let's say, Ali, you give a student an assignment, like, we're going to do some research. What's their go-to? What do they think research is their first thing they should do with research? We all know that answer.
Google.
Thank you. And I didn't even prep him on this. I want you to know that. I did not prep him. So kids think that research equals Google. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm right.
They do.
They do. Now, I remember asking a student in Hong Kong, I said, is this equation true? And he says, we know it's not true, but we act as if it is. So that's the mindset. So we know it's not true, but we act as if it is. The problem with Google is if that's all you use, you're always copying other people's material. And there's a quote from the 1930s that says, if you copy from one person, it's plagiarism. If you copy from 2, it's research. Okay, so what do we mean by research? Research means, search means to look, and research means to look again and to add to the body of knowledge. So I developed a method called the Miso Method, which is an acronym. So it's very easy to remember. If you're doing the M of action research, the M is media. You could be using newspapers. You can use the internet. You can use television, books. You can also use maps. I know this is a map of Vienna. You could do a map of anywhere. You could do a map of where you are to really locate what's going on, hot spots, let's say, for climate issues. I would be to interview people. You interview someone who's got expertise. And remember, if you do personal inventory with your parent community, you're going to find a lot of experts that you can bring in. Or just ask Ali. He knows lots of experts. He can help you get connected. But you can do experts in person and also virtually. The one on the right is Leanne Lavender, one of our consultants, who is at Concordia in Shanghai, and she's doing interviewing with someone in Nepal. So you can really, again, use this idea of staying connected. S is surveys, and students don't know how powerful surveys are, but they are. And if you really want to build inquiry skills, get kids doing surveys, because they really care that their questions have to get better. You don't have to have them do it. They will want to do it. And they'll see that, oh, that question didn't work. So, oh, that question, no, I want to get my questions better. And this is how you really build that sense of skill sets and observation and experience. So I want to share a story with you of how a school, well, first I'm going to show you how you use this.
First, can we go back to the slide? Yeah, so Michael is asking, can Miso work with all the grades? And then our answer, the quick one will be, yes. Okay. Because so, now by looking at these, I'm sure that grade 1 student or grade 12 student, they will use different media, interview people, write and go collect data from survey, and then observe and experience. And everything depends on the level that we are teaching, right?
Thank you. Now, if I'm doing this with 4th or 5th graders or 8th graders, they can learn the whole Miso method at once. But with kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade, they might, in a first unit of inquiry, they might just use media. The second unit, they do interview. The second, but we use that language. By the end of the year, they've done each one at least once. And kids love to ask questions. And if you give a kid a clipboard, they feel powerful. I've seen kindergartners run around and use a clipboard, and it's hilarious, but they really are serious about their questions and their activities. You could take any topic. It doesn't even have to be SDG or service related. You could be doing rocks. You could be using any topic, and the Miso method works. So it will change how students think about research, the quality. Now, up in the diploma program, you can use this for extended essay so well to diversify the approach to research. So the IB used to, when I worked with them closely, they loved when I would talk about this because they said, this is what students need, is a clear picture of what research really is. So thank you so much for that question. All right, so I just want to show you, here I am in Japan with some students. I want to show an easy way to do this with students who are a bit older, maybe middle and high school. They were interested in mental health, and I had them each write a question, one question per Post-it note on mental health, and they first put them up on the wall. Then I had them take them off, and I drew the Miso method, just a little box, just like you see right here. You see how simple it is. And then I invited them to put their questions where they thought they could be answered. This one's best for media, for interview, for search, and it gives people a roadmap to think of how we want to approach this. You can work in, there's so many ways to do this. Again, I have materials that you can download for free on my website on about the Miso method, and you're always welcome to ask us. So
Cathy,
these
you know what sorry, just jumping in there. I've seen a lot of teachers, if you are implementing the primary years program and doing the exhibition, we had students from the diploma program who went to the students who were doing the exhibition. They taught them how to do the, utilize the Miso method, and it was very successful. So just to throw that out there for teachers who are doing the PYP.
So I want to give you an example of a school that used the Miso method. I think you'd enjoy this example. There's some students outside of Barcelona, and they were living in a community where the swallows, these birds, would come every year and nest. It was a big deal. Everybody would come see the swallows. Well, one year they stopped coming. They just stopped. No swallows. So they brought in scientists and experts, and they couldn't figure it out. So for several years, there were no swallows returning to this village. So they gave the problem to the best group they could, and that was grade 4 students. So they challenged the grade 4 students with bringing back the swallows. So they knew the Miso method. So they looked at media, they looked at maps to really see about their community and where the birds had been. For interview, they interviewed some of the experts, the town manager, some of the scientists. For survey, they surveyed elderly people because they're the keepers of the knowledge. And they interviewed the elderly people to find out what they remembered about the birds, and their memories and their ideas were really what fueled this whole process. And then they observed that from what they learned is the birds like to nest in little tiny spaces. And they observed that because of changes in construction, all these tiny spaces the birds had nested in were no longer there. And what they did was they just made little clay molds and put them up around the village in key strategic places. And the 4th graders brought the swallows back. They brought the birds back. But if they didn't have the Miso method, it wouldn't have happened. So yes, you can use it at all grade levels, even up through university levels. I teach this at universities. So this is something that you can use at all grade levels. Now, you're going to see that there's lots of information when you download it, cbkassociates.com, that will help you with this. And we also have a set of 4 publications that I wrote that are companions to my book, The Complete Guide to Service Learning, but they're all available for free for download. And you can, again, access them from my website. Kids, again, they all relate to the SDGs, Kids Guide to Hunger and Homelessness, Reading and Succeeding, Climate Change, and Protecting and Caring for Animals. So please take advantage of those. So I'm hopeful that, well, of course, there's a lot more to say about service learning in the process, but that by giving you these key ideas how to start with investigation, we hope we're giving you some practical ideas you can use on Sunday or Monday when you're back at school, because that's what this is all about. We'd also like to tell you just for a moment about a program we've started during COVID called Documentar. And it's a place to help young people share what they're experiencing, what they're feeling, what they're thinking about, and how they're taking action. So these are all submissions from students from around the world. The far left with the photography is a girl in Shanghai put this together to show the distancing and what's happening. You could get the emotion. A student in Atlanta posted an image of turtles. She made pop-up books and wanted to share that. This is a recent submission by a student in South Korea that really shows the before and after of COVID, and then narratives. So if you go to Documentar with an underscore on Instagram, or you go on Twitter at Documentar Now, you could see more about it. And again, download resources on my website that you can really use. So we wanted to make sure we have enough time for questions. I think we hit it right on the nose, Ali. You said 45 minutes. So we really want to really talk with you all. And again, this is just how you can contact me. And through me, you can get to Shei and also cbkassociates.com. So I could stop sharing and we could just have a chance to talk. Is that a good idea, Ali?
Perfect. And then I'm going also to share while we are waiting for some questions. And let me tell everyone that the day started with Cathryn and Shei, but the day will continue. And so we will move from US and Canada to India very soon, where Havna will be also sharing with us some ideas about global citizenship. Then we're going to Tunisia with Doha, and then we come to the Arab world with Fatima and Rana. We will be talking about the SDG in Arabic and how to integrate them in our Arabic curriculum and units of inquiry. And then we will wrap up our day with Dakri, and we will be talking about teaspoons of change. So all this under our big title, We Are the Change. And as you can see, we can introduce the change with very small action. So let me start with question number one. And then how can SDG, maybe I can ask Shei, how can SDG be connected to the government system?
Oh, very, very good question. Do you know, this is a really good question. We had a project led by students last year. They were working on supporting and raising awareness about people with disabilities. And they realized that they had to go and meet people and interview people from the government, because they are the ones who hold a lot of power, right? So they went and interviewed the Minister of Education, because they know they write the policies. And these policies is what transforms communities in one way or another, positive or negative. So there's an extremely close connection. And by interviewing the Minister of Education, they were able to learn more about what the country, in this case Angola, could offer to schools that have people with disabilities, but were not very supported, right? And that's how they were able to create some impact. So there's a very close relationship, and it's very good for students to learn about government and how they're connected with the SDGs. In this case, like if you think about it, right? If you think of the government and this group of students advocating for people with disabilities, how many connections can we see here, right? With other SDGs. So it is something powerful to learn in for students. Kathy, you might want to add something.
Yeah, thank you. I do. You know, from the very beginning days of service learning, and I've been involved with it for some time. Oh, it was almost like a mantra I would say all the time to teachers. Whatever issue they're looking at is to find out what are the government agencies that are connected. There's a government agency for everything, and students don't realize this. So they think that, I don't know what they think. I don't know what I thought, but I remember we were asking students once where people that said they would throw trash away. We said, where's away? They said outer space. I mean, no, we don't throw things into outer space. There are government agencies that oversee even the trash collection and where things are disposed. So every single topic, you could take every single one of the SDGs and also look at what are the local government issues around that. And then you could take it larger. What are the regional government relationships and the more, those in the country and even some of the global ones. So the UN is helping us create this kind of this clarity on what's happening globally, but it's also always important to check on what's going on locally with any of these issues. And this gives young people a voice to write letters, to be advocates. I know there were students once, someone asked before about primary children. There were some children who were 5 years old in Massachusetts who learned that there were some kids in their community who slept in their car. And that made them very upset. And they insisted on having a meeting with the local city council person to have a discussion about this. So when we give students that kind of a voice and give them the platform and the vehicle to do this, we're setting them up for being lifelong change makers. And I think this is something we really want to take very seriously.
Okay, Cathryn, I have one more question. So imagine I'm a coordinator in a school, a curriculum coordinator in a school, and I want to start integrating the SDG goal. So what is your tip and where to start? So it doesn't become a very overwhelming exercise or very repetitive. So any tip, because I know you've been working with these goals for a long time. So.
Well, what I love to do, and I do miss doing things in person, Ali, you're absolutely right, is when I have teachers in a room, I will, let's say, project the SDGs. And for some teachers, they've never seen it before. That's legitimate. Not every teacher has seen these or is familiar with them. And so we have to start from the very beginning. So if I put them up, I'll just say, what is something you're teaching this week? And what can you find a goal that would connect to it? That's my first question. And that's pretty simple. And then once they have, I often have them stand up and find a partner and say, I'm teaching about water resources, and that connects to these three. And someone else says, well, I'm teaching about the history of our country, and that would connect to these two. And so we just start breaking it down very small ways. And then I'll often play what I call the SDG game. I made this up. So I have people write down 3 numbers between 1 and 17. Let's say if I picked 1 and you have 4, then we would meet up and you would have 1, and I'd say, what do these have to do with each other? So we're beginning to help them think together about how these 2 are connected, and there are always connections to be made. So I think you break it down very simply and very slowly. And Shei's putting up in the chat a resource that you can go to see more things. But this is the preliminary way I get people thinking is, what are you teaching this week and what could it connect to? Because I guarantee you, except calculus, because I don't know what calculus is, so I can't help you with calculus. But any other subject, you can say, we can find a connection. So that would be my suggestion for the very, very, very beginning. And you could play that same game with the students. What are we studying in class and which goal does it have to do it? Just gets people thinking, and people like doing it because they tell me afterwards that it stretches their minds, and we need to stretch the minds of teachers as well as the minds of students.
Very good. So all the people who were watching, they were very happy with all the strategies shared and the resources shared. I think it was an excellent start of the day. Cathryn and Shei, I would like to thank you for your time. It's very late on your side, so have a good rest. And I will continue after a short break. And as I said to everyone, please feel free to join us if you have some moment today. We will be giving more examples and more ideas, and webinars will be published on our YouTube channel if you missed them. And let me announce also that next month, on the 23rd of October, we will be talking about assessment. So wait also for the 23rd of October with different speakers who are going to share their experience about assessment. Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you, everyone. Such a pleasure.